Hi, it's Katrina. The powers that be are hiding something big, and it's on Mars. Rumors are that NASA knows, the CIA knows, but they're not really telling. Today we'll uncover some shocking secrets about the red planet that you're not supposed to know. The alien monument on Mars. Gather round, space enthusiasts, conspiracy theorists, and fans of all things Martian. The face on Mars is back, bigger and more dubious than ever. The face that spawned 1,000 alien theories is back for another close-up, courtesy of NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 orbiter snapped a photograph of what appeared to be a mysterious human face staring back at us from the surface of Mars. That photo went viral, well, as viral as things could go in the pre-internet days, and immediately sparked speculation that it was an ancient alien monument. If Martians are anything like us, they like building giant stone selfies too. In reality, scientists say that Viking 1's cameras caught a bad case of bit errors, aka digital glitches. The glitch, plus some tricky shadows that just happened to resemble eyes, a nose, and a mouth, created the face. NASA tried to clear things up with the public, explaining that the formation was just an eroded hill, not a real alien monument. But let's be real. Once the aliens did it, theory took off, there was no stopping it. All these years later, people are still convinced the face on Mars is an alien construction. Are you convinced? You might not be after I tell you what happened in 2001. With more advanced cameras came a clearer view of the supposed monument. NASA's Mars Global Surveyor took another look at the infamous formation with a much sharper camera, and the face completely disappeared. The better camera revealed a random, lumpy mound of rock with no discernible facial features. It was like seeing an old high school crush in HD and realizing they really weren't as cute as you remembered. Okay, maybe not the best analogy, but you get the idea. 20 years later, the latest image from the Mars Global Surveyor's high-rise camera takes it a step further, providing a 3D stereo view of the area. But unfortunately, the face is still absent. There is nothing in the recent photos that looks like an alien statue. I don't know, are you disappointed? Did part of you want it to be aliens? While the face on Mars has been thoroughly debunked, the search for life on the red planet is still very much on. NASA's rovers are tirelessly hunting for signs of ancient microbial life, and in the near future, we may even get Martian rock samples brought back to Earth for further study. I wanted to take a quick break to thank today's sponsor, Raycon. Spring is almost here, but does anyone feel like March is just madness? There's just so much noise about everything right now, whether it's the birds chirping away or the endless bombardment of news coming from the TV. All I want to do is escape the noise and unwind. The world is just too loud, but finding a moment of peace is impossible. Until I discovered Everyday Earbuds by Raycon. Now I can create my own personal oasis anytime, anywhere. Raycon Everyday Earbuds have been an absolute game changer. They have active noise cancellation capable of drowning out all of those annoying sounds. Raycon's Everyday Earbuds are your sidekick for the gym, work, or phone calls, offering premium audio that goes where you go. I use them for work all of the time, and of course watching YouTube videos so I don't bother anyone around me. Their latest model is better than ever, and the batteries on these things never die. Seriously, they last forever. We're talking 32 hours of battery life. Raycon isn't messing around. There's nothing more annoying than finally putting in your earbuds but they have no battery. But with Raycon's quick charge function, just 10 minutes of charging gives you 90 minutes of battery. Also, multi-point connectivity lets you pair with 2 devices at once. And the best part, they are insanely affordable. You don't need to compromise on quality just to save some cash. Raycon gives you reliable, premium audio without breaking the bank. Actually, maybe the best part is that they don't fall out of your ear. I use these all the time when I travel or work out, and I can't tell you how many times I've been moving around and lost an earbud, but not Raycon. Plus, they are weatherproof and sweat resistant, perfect for warm weather and exercising, which we should all be doing more of, by the way. But I've never had an issue with them slipping out, no matter what I'm doing. I've also been loving these cool protective case covers. First of all, check out this design. It complements the earbuds color perfectly and really lets me express my personal style. And not only do these look great, they also support wireless charging, so I don't even have to take the protective cover off to get the 90 minutes of battery in just 10 minutes of charging. Go to buyraycon.com/originsexplained where you will get 20% off the everyday earbuds. That's right, Raycon is offering 20% off the everyday earbuds when you go to buyraycon.com/originsexplained. Thanks so much again to Raycon for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back into it. The Forgotten Giants of Mars. This is big news. Mars was home to giants. The Nephilim of the Old Testament ruled the red planet and built great pyramids so tall the Egyptians would be embarrassed if they ever saw them. At least this is according to the CIA. NASA is still out here searching for life on Mars, but apparently the CIA already found it 40 years ago. And not just any life, really tall people with a knack for extravagant construction projects. This wild revelation comes from a declassified CIA document titled Mars Exploration, May 22, 1984. It describes how CIA operatives used astral projection to visit Mars around 1 million years ago. They didn't just astral project through space, they also traveled through time. But wait, what in the world is astral projection, you might be asking? It's the theoretical ability to send your consciousness on a field trip. Imagine laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly your spirit leaves your body and travels to another place. That's astral projection. Why launch people into space when you can mentally teleport them there instead? That was the CIA's reasoning behind Project Stargate, a super-secret US Army program designed to train psychic spies. Think Stranger Things meets Men in Black, but with way more bureaucracy. The project, which started in 1977, aimed to explore paranormal abilities like remote viewing, telepathy, and even moving objects with the mind. How cool would that be? If you could have one psychic superpower, which one would you choose? To unlock these abilities, participants listen to binaural beats and hemi-sync audio, which are basically those trippy sounds you hear in meditation videos, promising to open your third eye. Remember, this is the CIA we're talking about. Instead of feeling spiritually enlightened, one lucky subject traveled straight to ancient Mars and saw a massive pyramid. This remote viewer also witnessed a giant road leading to a monument which, according to the report, looked eerily like ancient Egyptian structures on Earth. As if that weren't wild enough, our psychic explorer also reported seeing a population of very tall, very thin people wearing a strange, tailored silk clothing. These were ancient Martians with an eye for fashion, but things weren't all handy-dandy on Mars a million years ago. The CIA operatives said in their vision they could tell that the Martians were desperately seeking a new home. Their environment was falling apart. Storms were wrecking everything. They needed to find salvation on a new planet. Could that planet have been Earth? Were they the original architects of Earth's pyramids? Did they become us? Could we be the descendants of intergalactic travelers? Are we from Mars? Let's just hope Martians don't try to migrate to Earth today, or they'll be deported. As for Project Stargate, along with its psychic space explorations, it was shut down in 1995. Sorry, it's too late to be a psychic detective for the government. And now for a quick break because it's shout-out time! I want to give a big thank you to Soraya Boone and Jeanette for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for your support. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this. NASA's top secret mission to Mars. Hey, remember that time that NASA sent astronauts to Mars in the 1970s? No? Well, neither does anyone else, because Project Redsun is shrouded in more secrecy than the Vatican's secret archives. This is a tale of conspiracy, government cover-ups, and space aliens. NASA supposedly launched a top-secret Apollo-style mission to Mars 50 years ago, with the goal of not just visiting, but colonizing the red planet. For decades, NASA has had its eyes locked on Mars. The first major step toward exploring the planet came with Mariner 4, launched in 1964. Mariner 4 was the first spacecraft to successfully fly by Mars, snapping history's first close-up images of the Martian surface. And while these photos mostly showed a dry, cratered wasteland, they still made scientists excited enough to keep looking. By 1971, the Mariner 9 orbiter provided a full view of Mars. It revealed ancient riverbeds, an enormous canyon system now known as Valles Marineris, and towering volcanoes. Some of these formations looked suspiciously artificial, leading to whispers that NASA had found something big and wasn't telling us. Big as in the ruins of a lost civilization. Enter Project Redsun, a thing that is only whispered about in online forums and among conspiracy theorists. I don't have real evidence that what you're about to hear is true. You decide what to believe. On August 28, 1973, NASA and the U.S. Department of Defense launched a classified mission called Project Redsun with the goal of landing humans on Mars. And guess who was supposedly on board? Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and a Soviet cosmonaut, Vladimir Ilyushin. The same Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong from the Apollo moon landing. If you land on the moon, why not land on Mars too? According to leaked reports, these astronauts were sent aboard a spacecraft called ISV Columbus to possibly establish a base on Mars. Mission control was initially set up in Cocoa Beach, Florida, but later moved to Area 51. A grainy 16mm film surfaced some years later, allegedly showing astronauts in space en route to Mars, with glimpses of the planet's south pole visible through the ship's window. But as expected, NASA has completely denied any involvement in such a mission. If Project Redsun did happen, why would NASA keep it a secret? There are a few reasons, some of which you likely already guessed. It's possible that NASA found alien life or an ancient Martian civilization, but they've kept the news away from the public for fear it could change human society. There's also a possibility that the astronauts discovered a breathable atmosphere on Mars. This would mean that humans could very easily set up cities without any terraforming or complicated machines. Bring a few plants and start a Mars farm. Why not? It's also possible there was something dangerous. A potential threat may have been found on Mars that forced NASA to keep quiet and has kept the space organizations of the world from ever trying to return. In 2011, more supposed evidence and testimonies began surfacing, including claims from Italian journalist and UFO researcher Luca Scantamburlo. Luca spoke publicly about Project Redsun. He cited an anonymous source, codenamed Bravo X Sierra 24, who provided alleged proof of the mission. NASA, however, remains tight-lipped. So, did it happen or not? On paper, the whole story sounds insanely far-fetched. But then again, we now know the US government ran secret space programs and funded paranormal research like Project Stargate. Who's to say they didn't attempt a covert mission to Mars? The Great Martian Apocalypse. Once upon a time, the red planet might have been lush, damp, and full of life-friendly conditions. It likely had an atmosphere rich in oxygen, flowing water, and all of the ingredients needed for life to take off. Can you imagine Mars looking like that? A world teeming with life? Then something big and ugly happened. There is evidence of a planet-wide cataclysm that wiped out all life on Mars. And shocker, NASA doesn't want to talk about it. It's not something we just missed. Scientists think the Great Martian Apocalypse probably happened about, let's say, 4 billion years ago. Scientists analyzing data from NASA's Curiosity rover have uncovered strong evidence of a massive disaster. The incident was so big, it demolished Mars' atmosphere. There are two prime suspects for the Martian collapse. Either there was a colossal volcanic eruption that made Pompeii look like a sputtering campfire, or there was a catastrophic collision with a Pluto-sized space rock. Pretty scary, right? Makes you think twice about those asteroid movies. I know Pluto has been downgraded from a planet to a rock, but it's still big enough that you do not want to get hit by it. If Earth had gotten hit by a Pluto-sized rock 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs wouldn't have been the only animals that went extinct. Either way, whatever happened to Mars, the planet never recovered. Let's look at the science behind a collision disaster. According to Dr. Christopher Webster from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Mars might have gotten wrecked by a rogue planet, asteroid, or mega meteor. The impact would have had the force of millions of nuclear bombs. Webster explained that such an impact would have quite literally stripped much of the atmosphere from the planet. Suddenly, there was no air to breathe and everything died. This theory makes sense when you consider that Mars' atmosphere today is thin, weak, and 95% carbon dioxide. It's a far cry from the oxygen-rich air it once had. Scientists also found evidence of missing argon gas, a sign that something violently stripped away the planet's protective blanket billions of years ago. I think it might be time for Earthlings to work together and build laser guns that can demolish asteroids before they hit us. We can't lose our atmosphere. What if it wasn't a space rock, but rather a volcanic hellscape that destroyed Mars from the inside out? It's time to show you the Medusae Fossae Formation, a massive deposit of volcanic rock that scientists now believe came from a supervolcano the size of Texas. That's insane. Do you know how big Texas is? In 2018, planetary scientists Dr. Lujendra Oja and Dr. Kevin Lewis found that the Martian surface was once rocked by a series of devastating volcanic eruptions. They blasted toxic gases into the sky, altering the climate. They ejected enough water vapor to cover the planet in a global ocean. The eruptions also suffocated the planet with carbon dioxide, killing any chance of long-term habitability. Mars, once a potential paradise, may have choked itself out in a series of brutal volcanic explosions. What's truly scary is that something like it could happen on Earth at any second. We have more than enough volcanoes to annihilate our world. Okay, but what if there's a third option? What if the original inhabitants of Mars, possibly our distant planetary cousins, blew themselves up in an atomic war? Plasma physicist Dr. John Brandenburg is a supporter of the alien atomics theory. He said that the radioactive elements found in Martian soil are similar to fallout from nuclear explosions. Dr. Brandenburg believes that Mars was decimated by nuclear war. Most mainstream scientists dismiss this idea, arguing that cosmic radiation naturally produces those elements. If Mars really was once home to life, and if they saw the apocalypse coming, maybe they escaped. Do you think they fled underground, escaped to a new planet, or transcended into another dimension? Mars is crawling with rats. Mars has a rodent problem. In 2012, NASA's Curiosity rover snapped a photo of what appeared to be a camouflaged rodent chilling among the Martian rocks. Internet sleuths went wild, as they typically do. UFO researcher Scott Waring declared it proof of life on an alien world. Scott pointed out what he saw as a nose, ears, and even stomach details in the photo. NASA's scientific consensus was that the so-called rat was nothing but a weirdly shaped rock. It was the face of Mars all over again. But Scott Waring wasn't done. Since 2012, he has claimed to spot everything except your grandma on Mars. He says he's found skyscrapers, a crashed spaceship, a fossilized tree stump, and even the carved outline of a woman's body, all hidden in plain sight on Mars, and all revealed through NASA images. Waring wasn't alone in his hunt for the truth. As Fox Mulder said, the truth is out there. Plenty of other anomaly hunters have gone full detective mode on NASA images, reporting objects that look eerily like rusted machinery, broken pottery, skulls and bones, and helmets and statues. What is the conclusion here? Does Mars need a rodent exterminator or not? The answer, according to scientists, is no. Experts say the rat, the face of Mars, the skyscrapers, and the fossils are all a case of pareidolia. We see these shapes because our brains are hardwired to see meaningful patterns in random images. Dr. Kang Lee, a neuroscientist at the University of Toronto, said pareidolia is a normal neuroperceptual phenomenon. It helps human beings to be super alert to things, and so it's a good evolutionary advantage. Even if most weird Martian discoveries can be dismissed as illusions, there are some that scientists are baffled by. Take the Cydonia area, for example. It's the region where the face of Mars was first spotted. Since then, images of Cydonia have also revealed a 5-sided pyramid, a group of pyramid formations arranged in a city-like pattern, and a perfectly circular mound known as the Tholus that doesn't appear to be volcanic or a meteor crater. Some researchers argue that these geometrical patterns are too precise to be natural. What do you think? Is it more pareidolia, or could Mars truly have ruins on it? What if Mars is our home planet? Could the global obsession with Mars be nothing more than a collective homesickness for our original planet? Is Mars our ancestral home planet? Mars is the rusty red planet that just won't stop trending. NASA, SpaceX, world governments, and every billionaire with a space fetish are laser focused on getting there. National Geographic even calls it Mars Mania. Why are we all acting like this barren wasteland is the VIP section of the cosmos? What's the big deal? Is it the challenge, the potential for discovery, or something more? Mars is a frozen, lifeless desert. You could get the same experience by going to the Atacama Desert of Peru. Plus, you might find an alien skull buried in the dust. But that's a topic for another video. It's almost like humans are hardwired to return to Mars. Sure, we should probably focus on saving Earth before we start terraforming another planet, but tell that to Elon Musk. Remember when he promised to start a self-sustaining civilization on Mars by 2026? I don't know if it's gonna happen with only like 10 months to go. Let's talk about the Mars jet lag theory. When astronauts go to space, their circadian rhythms shift from Earth's 24-hour cycle to, get this, a 24.9-hour cycle. That's really bizarre because a day on Mars is 24.6 hours long. Coincidence? Or are humans just adjusting to their primitive clocks? Michael Barra, author and ancient astronaut theorist, argues that our internal clocks are still syncing to our old planetary home. If you're a night owl who struggles with mornings, congratulations! You might be more Martian than you thought. Insomniacs everywhere can celebrate their cultural roots with Mars. So do you stay up late? Maybe you're a Martian too. In 2020, Haim Eshed, a former Israeli space security chief, dropped a bombshell. Haim claimed that there is, and has been for years, a secret underground base on Mars where American astronauts and extraterrestrials are working together. Mainstream media laughed it off, but hey, no one's going to be laughing when we take back our home planet. Nick Pope, a former UK Ministry of Defense UFO investigator, suggests the intense focus on Mars isn't just about scientific curiosity. Nick thinks that Mars should be our backup planet in case things on Earth go sour. It's the nearest fixer-upper in our cosmic neighborhood, but is it really fixable? This brings me to another point. Could we as a species really move to Mars? Moving to Mars is no cozy road trip. There's radiation, zero breathable air, and temperatures colder than your ex's heart. NASA has partnered with SpaceX, shifting the cost of Martian exploration to the private sector. But any real action on Mars is still decades away. You're not going to believe the plans in place for making Mars livable. One plan involves nuking the polar ice caps to release CO2 and jumpstart a greenhouse effect. If that sounds reckless, you don't want to hear some of the other options. Scientists have suggested purposely crashing asteroids into the planet to thicken its atmosphere. Remember before when I told you about the Martian apocalypse? It all comes back to that fateful disaster. Mars lost its magnetic field billions of years ago, which means that solar winds stripped away its atmospheres. If humans don't fix the magnetic field, all our terraforming dreams are toast. NASA's Dr. Jim Green has an idea. Jim thinks we could place an artificial magnetic shield at the Sun-Mars L1 Lagrange point. It sounds like sci-fi, but this is legit. If scientists can crank up a magnetic shield strength to 10,000 Gauss, Mars could hold an atmosphere again. Ancient astronaut theorists might point out that the Anunnaki supposedly came to Earth to mine gold, possibly to build a planetary shield for their own home planet. Humans could become the next Anunnaki. So what do you think? Is Mars our destiny? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Life on Mars. Is NASA hiding evidence of life on Mars? Dr. Barry DiGregorio, a researcher at the Center for Astrobiology at the University of Buckingham, said he has evidence that Mars was once teeming with life. According to Barry, NASA is pulling the ultimate cover-up. He is working on a bombshell report that will supposedly lay all the juicy details bare. Move over, Watergate. This could be Marsgate. So what's got DiGregorio so fired up? It's those strange squiggly formations spotted by NASA's Curiosity rover. While the space agency insists they are just rock crystals, DiGregorio isn't buying it. He claims the formations bear a striking resemblance to Ordovician trace fossils found on Earth. Let's break that down a little bit more. After all, we aren't all super scientists. Ordovician trace fossils are essentially tiny imprints left behind by ancient soft-bodied critters. Think of it like alien snail trails frozen in time. Kinda gross, kinda awesome. DiGregorio isn't just some random dude with a telescope. His expertise lies in microscopic life forms, and he is convinced that NASA is brushing off clear signs of extraterrestrial life. According to him, NASA was so unbothered by these potential fossils that they ordered the Curiosity rover to move along and not investigate further. As you can imagine, NASA isn't high-fiving DiGregorio for his discovery. They maintain that what he is calling fossils are just regular old crystals. Nothing to see here, folks. Ignore the prehistoric snail trails. To make things even more suspect, the area in which these alleged fossils were found is known as the Gale Crater. It's believed to have been a massive lake billions of years ago. If you're looking for ancient alien life, a lake bed is prime real estate to check out. It's the one spot that life might be fossilized and preserved. NASA's decision to move on from the site raises some serious eyebrows. It has people speculating that NASA doesn't want the public to know that Mars is an alien graveyard. The bizarre sand dunes of Mars. Perfectly circular sand dunes on the Martian surface have scientists at a loss. They're standing around in their observatories scratching their heads, all because of a few impossible photos taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This is a weird one. Normally, Martian sand dunes come in all sorts of shapes. Long, wavy, irregular, you name it. But the new sand dunes found are not irregular in the slightest. These little beauties, sitting pretty in Mars' northern hemisphere, are freakishly round. I mean, chef's kiss round. Nature's best attempt at drawing a circle without a compass. The high-rise camera on the orbiter photographed the perfectly circular dunes on November 22, 2022. It's been more than 2 years, and planetary scientists at the University of Arizona are still trying to figure out what's going on. All they know is that the dunes are slightly asymmetrical. Their steep sides slope south, likely due to Martian winds, and sand movement might be shaping them this way. However, no one's really sure, as usual. Some suspect the sand dunes are proof of extraterrestrial geometry. Here's a cool fact to impress your friends with. Mars has seasons just like Earth does. It goes through summer, spring, fall, and winter, only the seasons are stretched out over 687 Earth days. Each year on Mars is twice as long as a year on Earth. This is important because for part of the year, the sand dunes are frozen. A previous high-rise image caught them covered in ice. One day they are sand dunes, and the next they're looking like powdered sugar donuts. NASA's been keeping an eye on Mars dunes since 2006, tracking how they move and shift. Data shows that they are creeping from the equator to the poles at about 3.3 feet or 1 meter per Martian year. That's good and all, but why are the dunes so round? One thing's for sure, there's plenty more mysteries where that came from. The city of Martian spiders. Don't panic! Hundreds of creepy crawlies have been spotted marching across Mars, but scientists don't think it's a real army of intergalactic spiders ready to launch an invasion of Earth. This isn't Starship Troopers, and arachnophobes need not worry. If the thought of Mars being overrun by giant alien spiders just made you consider canceling your future space travel plans, take a deep breath. Scientists don't think the spiders are real arachnids. They are something even stranger. New satellite images from the European Space Agency's Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter show what look like a bunch of inky black, spindly creatures scuttling across a region of Mars known as Inca City. Wait, Inca City? Is this the ruin of an ancient civilization? I'll get to that in a second. First, let me explain the spiders. It turns out they are the aftermath of seasonal explosions. Every Martian spring, Inca City experiences a wild phenomenon where carbon dioxide ice starts to melt from the bottom up, transforming directly from a solid into a gas. This trapped gas builds up until boom! It erupts through the ice like a dusty space geyser, blasting dark Martian soil up onto the surface. The result is a scarred landscape of strange spidery patterns that look like eight-legged freaks. So, is it just Inca City that's got these spider geysers, or is it a planet-wide phenomenon? Scientists have been tracking the spider formations for years, with images dating back to 2020 showing similar outbreaks. The spiders don't just appear in Inca City. The phenomenon happens all over Mars' southern polar region when the planet starts warming up for spring. I mean, who knew that Martian spring could be so dramatic? No spiders on Mars have been confirmed yet, but what's the deal with Inca City? NASA scientists don't think Inca City has anything to do with aliens. Definitely not the Inca. Its name comes from its mysterious rumen-like ridges. Scientists first thought these formations were petrified sand dunes or remnants of ancient Martian glaciers. However, in 2002, NASA's Mars orbiter revealed that the area is part of a massive 53-mile-wide impact crater. The straight ridges that give Inca City its city-like appearance may be magma formations, lava that oozed up through the cracks in Mars' crust after a space rock hit it billions of years ago. Over time, sediment buried these structures, but erosion has since uncovered them, giving us the eerie landscape we see today. Who left their boot on Mars? Who did it? Who left their boot on Mars? According to our favorite alien theorist, Scott C. Waring, a NASA photograph shows an old boot sitting sad and abandoned on the Martian surface. And that's not all. I'm trying to picture someone hobbling across the vast wasteland of Mars with only one boot on and just not working. Where could a boot have possibly come from? Scott described the boot as heavy, military grade. He thinks the piece of footwear bound for Mars' lost and found box belongs to a soldier. But in whose army? Ours or the aliens? Waring, known for regularly analyzing NASA images with an eagle eye for the extraterrestrial, claims this latest discovery is 100% proof that NASA is hiding facts about life on Mars. And if you think the boot is weird, wait until you hear what else he says he found. While examining photos from the Perseverance rover, Waring claims he uncovered multiple artifacts, including the boot, a statue of a sitting figure with its hair tied up, a half-buried face, and a piece of machinery. Obviously, the Martians had industrial technology. According to Waring, these items were photographed suspiciously close to the Mars rover, which in his mind means that NASA must know about them and is keeping them under wraps. But why? Why would NASA hide these discoveries? Waring believes it all comes down to one thing. That one thing is protecting their credibility. If people found out that aliens had been chillaxing on Mars this whole time, it would discredit 50 years of NASA's work. That's a risk they can't afford to take. I should mention that a few weeks before the boot story went viral, Waring found something even more unexplainable. He claimed to have spotted an alien watching the Mars rover in another NASA image. Waring described the creature as a foot-tall, pink-bodied being. Okay, that's creepy. The way Waring puts it, aliens are tiny little gremlin creatures no taller than your knees. I'm imagining a bunch of small Oompa Loompas living on Mars like fantasy dwarves. I don't know. Do you think this guy is credible, or should Waring's claims be taken with a grain of salt?
Thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for extra content you might have missed.
The Sun may have a twin. In a region past Neptune on the outer reaches of our solar system, there is a massive collection of ancient space debris called the Oort cloud, which doesn't fit into scientific models of how the solar system formed. In trying to explain how this happened, a pair of scientists proposed that the Sun has a long-lost twin, and that the two stars spent their early days accumulating these items from interstellar space. If the Sun does have a twin, it separated from its orbit with the Sun long ago and ended up in a totally different part of the Milky Way. The Oort cloud may be the legacy left behind by this former solar presence, which would explain why it contains more objects than it should. In simple terms, the Sun may have worked with its theoretical twin to capture the 100 billion objects that exist in the Oort cloud today. Our Sun alone wouldn't have had a strong enough gravitational pull to do this on its own. But there would have been enough pull if it were working in tandem with a star roughly the same size, according to scientific calculations. This binary orbit between the Sun and its twin may have been broken by a third star, leaving the Oort cloud behind as the only existing evidence of the twin. The theory not only makes sense, it falls in line with the fact that many solar systems orbit around two stars, suggesting that ours was no different at an earlier point in time. For now, the findings are speculative, but they are promising and worth looking into. A tsunami of gravitational waves. Gravitational waves are ripples in the fabric of space-time. They are caused when large masses accelerate. For example, when extremely dense objects like black holes and neutron stars get locked into a binary orbit and ultimately merge with one another. Gravitational waves were detected for the first time in 2015. Since then, scientists have focused on improving their ability to spot them, and their work seems to be paying off. Between November 2019 and March 2020, researchers based in the US and Italy detected 35 separate gravitational wave events. That's more than a third of the 90 that have been discovered to date. Study co-author Susan Scott explained in a statement that the increased detections are revealing a lot about the life and death of stars throughout the universe. 32 of the events resulted from black holes colliding. The data shows that black holes are surprisingly diverse. For example, while one pair was 145 times the mass of the Sun, another pair was only 18 times its mass. The researchers believe that the other 3 events were possibly caused by the merging of black holes with less dense objects such as neutron stars, which form from the explosions of supernovas. As the technology to detect gravitational waves improves, scientists expect to pick up more mysterious events. They hope to learn more about the objects that make gravitational waves and to create new ways to test the laws of gravity. A shipyard of ancient galaxies. Protoclusters are collections of young galaxies. In the words of science writer Patrick Pester, they are like shipyards where galaxies are built. Scientists recently discovered a protocluster 11 billion light-years from Earth, in a part of space that's just 3 billion years old. They reported their findings on the giant structure dubbed G237 earlier this year. An international team of researchers have confirmed its existence in a newly published follow-up study. They've identified 63 galaxies within G237, which study co-author Brenda Fry described as a star factory in overdrive. She further explained that scientists don't know much about protoclusters because they are too faint to be detected with optical light. The teams that observed G237 identified it in the far infrared region of the electromagnetic spectrum. In other words, they found it using a telescope that detects tiny wavelengths of radiation. Much to their surprise, G237 appears to be producing new stars extremely quickly and in huge amounts. The protocluster doesn't seem to have enough hydrogen to support the rate at which this is happening, leading researchers to suspect that it's gleaning hydrogen from threads of gas, or filaments, that link galaxies in what's known as the cosmic web. It's possible that G237 is situated along an intersection of these filaments, which would explain where it gets the steady supply of hydrogen that it needs to crank out new stars on a seemingly constant basis. Mysterious exploding object. Scientists detected a fast radio burst, or FRB, for the first time in 2007. Fast radio bursts are tiny pulses in the electromagnetic spectrum that last just a few thousandths of a second, but pack a serious punch, producing the same amount of energy that the sun does in a year. That is crazy intense. Some FRBs are singular events, while others repeatedly emit energy. One example of the latter is an object known as FRB 121102. Located in a galaxy 3 billion light-years away, it was recently the focus of a study that started out as a simple data collecting mission. Scientists noticed that it exploded 1,652 times over a 60-hour period, to the tune of up to 117 times per hour. They knew from previous research that sometimes FRBs are caused by a type of dead neutron star called a magnetar. These objects have ultra-intense magnetic fields, trillions of times stronger than that of the Earth, which causes them to behave unusually. If FRB 121102 is a magnetar like one that astronomers detected in our galaxy last year, there is reason to believe that the bursts happen on the star's surface, rather than in the gas surrounding it. Simply put, FRB 121102 released energy in such quick succession, it had to come directly from its surface. While the findings can help guide further research, FRBs and the bodies that cause them remain largely a mystery. If nothing else, the study provides a good starting point for learning more about them. What do you think could be causing these ongoing explosions? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We've got lots more videos coming up. The moon's surface is full of oxygen. The lunar atmosphere is too thin to support oxygen-breathing life forms, but there's abundant oxygen inside the moon's top layer, known as the regolith. While as much as 45% of this layer is made up of the gas, it's trapped inside rocks and dust, making it impossible for earthly creatures to breathe in its current form. Soil scientist John Grant recently discussed the prospect of extracting oxygen from the lunar materials it binds to in order to make the moon's atmosphere habitable. He said that it could possibly be accomplished through something called electrolysis, but this would use up immense energy, requiring industrial equipment and energy sources that are capable of supporting the process. The first step would involve converting solid metal oxide into liquid form. A Belgian-based company plans to send 3 experimental reactors to the moon by 2025 to see if it's possible. If it is, then it will bring scientists one step closer to generating the type of oxygen we need to survive. Experts believe that a cubic meter of the lunar surface could generate enough oxygen for a human to live off of for 2 years. But theorizing and doing are two very different things, and whether or not their predictions will pan out remains to be seen. Still, it's a pretty amazing concept, literally mining oxygen to make the moon habitable for humans. Black holes might be growing. Scientists realized in recent years that black holes are much bigger than they expected them to be, but until recently they had no idea why. They now believe that this may be directly related to the fact that the universe is constantly expanding. According to a new theory known as cosmological coupling, all objects with mass are growing as the universe grows in the aftermath of the Big Bang. It's only natural, then, that black holes are also expanding, since they are some of the most massive objects that are known to exist. The theory was developed after scientists started observing black hole mergers, which is when 2 black holes get locked into orbit with one another and eventually collide. Researchers began tracking these events in 2015 using interferometers, which detect the gravitational ripples that occur when black holes smash into each other. They noticed that the waves didn't quite make sense, though. Based on previous calculations, black holes should be less than 40 times the mass of our Sun, but the ripples showed that some black holes are more than 50 solar masses, with some measuring nearly 100 solar masses. One possible explanation suggests that black holes grow by consuming gas, dust, stars, and other black holes. But this fails to explain how they expand in parts of the universe that lack these materials to feast on. Other proposals run too contrary to scientists' understanding of the universe to seem realistic, except perhaps the idea that the growth of black holes has something to do with the universe expanding. Using a theoretical model, researchers calculated that black holes may expand at a rate that coincides nicely with the growing universe. Cosmological coupling sounds crazy on the surface, but it's proven to be valid when it comes to other objects in the universe, so it's entirely possible that it applies to black holes as well. Searching for life on Alpha Centauri. The closest star to our solar system, other than the Sun of course, is called Alpha Centauri. It's actually a triple star system, and it's located just 4.35 light years away from us. Scientists recently announced plans to search for habitable planets within Alpha Centauri as part of a space telescope mission called Ptolemy. Equipped with a unique lens, the telescope will enable researchers to detect irregularities in the movement of stars that indicate that there is a planet with gravity nearby. NASA engineer Eduardo Bendek explained in a statement that even nearby planets are difficult for experts to find. The Ptolemy telescope is extremely sensitive and will make the discovery process easier by detecting even the slightest gravitational movement. 2 of the 3 stars that make up Alpha Centauri are similar to our Sun. The third is a red dwarf, and there are 2 exoplanets orbiting around it that appear to be somewhat similar to Earth. Now, this doesn't automatically mean that they have an atmosphere that we could survive in. Scientists haven't investigated the exoplanets in enough detail to make any conclusive statements about whether they do, or if they could support oxygen-breathing life forms. The Tolaman mission will try to answer that question by focusing primarily on what's known as the habitable zone around Alpha Centauri's 3 stars. This is an area where liquid water could possibly exist. Speaking with Space.com, Professor Peter Tuthill, who leads the mission's development, stressed the importance of getting to know our planetary neighbors. The team hopes to start doing just that by around 2025. Wormholes could be shortcuts through space-time. Have you ever fantasized about time travel? Many people do, though most of us have never thought that the crazy concepts in time travel stories could really be possible. You might be surprised to learn that scientists began speculating about time travel as far back as 1928, when mathematician and theoretical physicist Hermann Weyl proposed the idea of something that eventually became known as a wormhole. In simple terms, a wormhole is a structure that connects 2 very distant points in space-time, acting as a sort of shortcut between black holes that it would normally take an extremely long time to travel to and from. Experts don't know if wormholes actually exist, but they think it's possible. One major problem with the theory is that until recently, it seemed as though wormholes would instantly collapse, based on the laws of mathematics that are used to explain them. These laws, known as general relativity, are based on Albert Einstein's understanding of how gravity affects the fabric of space-time. They are fixed rules, but they allow for some freedom when it comes to using different metrics to describe a situation, and this can lead to different theoretical outcomes. Based on the metrics that scientists used in the past, wormholes are inherently unstable, but a new study plugged different metrics into the equation and found that wormholes might be stable after all. According to the research, a particle can hypothetically enter an event horizon, the area around a black hole that essentially marks the point of no return, and escape from the other side. The findings are fascinating but theoretical. The study only considers the role of gravity, and there are still numerous factors that indicate that if wormholes are real, they are unstable. In short, experts have a long way to go in order to truly understand whether wormholes are stable or if they even exist in the first place. What is Oumuamua? Our understanding of space is constantly changing. There is a lot scientists don't know, and sometimes discoveries have more to do with ruling certain things out than determining exactly what something is or how it works. Take, for example, Oumuamua, a huge object that was observed exiting our solar system in 2017 at 57,000 miles per hour, far too fast to have originated here. It was accelerating at a pace that gravity can't explain, and there were no signs of it containing any vapors or gases that might be propelling it. Scientists are having trouble figuring out exactly what this interstellar object is. A recent theory suggests that Oumuamua is a nitrogen iceberg, a chunk that broke off of a Pluto-like planet outside of our solar system. The presence of nitrogen would explain what's thrusting Oumuamua through space at such a high rate of speed. It also makes sense because nitrogen is present on Pluto and it's invisible to telescopes. Just as quickly as it was proposed, however, the nitrogen iceberg idea was shot down by astrophysicists at Harvard, who recently published a paper explaining why it's simply not possible. The team argued that the universe doesn't contain enough nitrogen to make an object as big as Oumuamua, which measures somewhere between 1,300 and 2,600 feet long. Moreover, pure nitrogen is rare and has only been detected on Pluto in extremely small amounts, according to the study's co-author Amir Siraj. But the authors of the nitrogen iceberg theory are standing by their findings. Astrophysicists Alan Jackson and Stephen Desch defended their research, claiming that the new study uses a lot of approximations and estimates, which conveniently fit the argument against their theory. As things currently stand, only one thing is clear when it comes to Oumuamua. The mystery of what it actually is remains unsolved. Thanks for watching! What was your favorite space discovery? Do you want to learn more? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!